Hi, I'm Safety Geek, and I'm here to talk about the Netflix series 13 Reasons Why, which has been the big show everyone's been talking about. I've seen people say that the show made them want to be kinder, which, given the fact it's aimed at teenagers, I don't think is a bad thing. But I have some concerns, and I know I will come across like a nagging mom. I just think these are things that people should be aware of, especially parents, so they can have a conversation with their kids. This show does contain spoilers, so if you want to finish watching the series, I would do that first. The show is about Hannah Baker. She is 17 years old. She makes these tapes that she sends around to some of her classmates, and then she kills herself. The tapes detail why she did it and how she felt those students were involved. The show follows Clay, who is this boy that's had a crush on her. He's going through the tapes, trying to figure out what his role in all of this was. I've heard people say that they thought the show portrays suicide as a way to get revenge on someone. I don't think that's the case. I don't think that was what the show creators intended. But I have some other concerns, such as Clay and this other kid named Alex are visibly distressed throughout the whole show, and whenever they confront a character about it, they're either told to ignore it, or in the case of Tony, this one boy who turns out he's in charge of making sure the tapes pass from person to person, he says stuff like, "We all killed Hannah," and places the blame back on them. Throughout the show, Clay is having these delusions and panic attacks, and Alex, at the end of the series, you find out that he's in the hospital because he attempted to kill himself. One thing I think the book did really well, which the show didn't, is it talks about if someone is in a mental crisis, how to identify it. So in the books, it talks about Hannah cutting off her hair and giving away her bike, which in the TV show she does cut her hair, but it's more of a way to reinvent herself as a way to let people know she was in a mental crisis. I've known several people who have committed suicide, and each time I was close to someone that was either a friend or family member of that person, and I can tell you that every single one of those people I knew blamed themselves afterwards. They wondered if there was anything they could have done to stop it. I'm going to be linking a video down in the description by this YouTuber named Jacqueline Glenn, who gave me permission to share her video. And she talks about the fact if someone does commit suicide, you can't blame yourself because you're not in charge of other people's actions. The main criticism most people I've seen have with the show is the fact that some of Hannah's reasons are a little absurd. Some of them are extremely serious, like there are 2 rape scenes, but the thing to keep in mind is she is 17 years old. She's not seeing things in a bigger picture, or she's not thinking straight. She's thinking about the fact that she feels isolated and she's trying to figure out why. She's looking at things in a linear progression, like this happened and then this happened and then I got depressed. And in all honesty, being depressed or feeling suicidal, it's a whole collection of things working together. So it is possible that she had a chemical imbalance or that she has chronically low self-esteem. And they're just not being taken into consideration, really, because most 17-year-olds probably wouldn't think about those things. The one reason I did have an issue with is Clay. So you find out Clay is listed because Hannah's upset he never asked her out. And there's even a scene where he says, "I killed a girl because I was too afraid to love her." This is a boy that is socially awkward, he doesn't know how to talk to girls, and now he potentially is going to go through life thinking if he doesn't date someone, they can kill themselves. I've listened to the show creators in interviews talk about how they wanted a conversation about mental health and how to get help, and I wish that was what they had focused on as opposed to this whole Romeo and Juliet feel that the show had, or love can save you. I do think having a support system is important. That's kind of my caveat. Now, throughout the show, the teenagers really don't know how to talk to adults. They're afraid of rejection. They're afraid of a negative reaction. There is one scene where Hannah goes and tries to talk to her high school counselor, and she was upset with his response. But in all honesty, he responded in the way that I would expect him to in that situation. So she goes to tell him how she was sexually assaulted, but she's not giving him any names. And his job is to make sure that she's safe. He doesn't know that she's talking about her, but he asks if this person is at risk of further harm, and she gets upset and just kind of leaves and says that she's just done with dealing with this. In all honesty, a counselor at a school, they're probably going to make sure that you're in a safe space first. That, you know, the person who had this happen to them is able to get the help they need, and legal action is potentially taken against the assailant. There are other scenes where students imagine talking to an adult, and they just picture horrible things happening. There is one scene where a girl talks to her dad about being sexually assaulted, and you don't actually see the conclusion. You just see her say, "I need to tell you about something," and then it cuts to something else. My reason for making the video is I know that these are difficult topics. These are not things that are easy to talk to a teenager about, but it could potentially save someone's life. And my plea to you is, if you see a kid that is in mental distress, and I'll be leaving links down in the description for resources and how to identify if someone is in a crisis, is to create a safe space for them. Let them talk. They're probably afraid of being rejected, or for getting in trouble, or for feeling like they let someone down. So keep those in mind and just let them talk to you. If you hear people talk about the show, I think that there are parts about the show that are good, but maybe also bring up some of the things that psychologists are concerned about. So, for instance, one thing I've heard many psychologists say with the show is that they are concerned with the fact it shows Hannah actually kill herself. Suicide is not usually shown or graphically described out of the fear that someone else who is suicidal might take inspiration and carry through with it. I will say that scene, I didn't feel like it was glamorized. It's a hard scene to watch. Hannah is screaming and crying, and it ends with her parents finding her dead body. But I can understand why people are concerned about it. Overall, I just think that starting the conversation and being able to get someone to resources is all that matters. And if this show does help some people get that, I think that's amazing. So this isn't the type of video I plan on usually making on this channel. I just felt this was something that needed to be discussed. Let me know if you have any thoughts on the show, or if there's anything you want me to talk about in the future in regards to safety. I don't really know how to end this. I've been shooting this probably 160 times over now because it's not an easy conversation to have. But thanks for watching, and stay safe.